On the floor, sitting on the floor. I didn't know. I don't think I'd ever.
It's on.
I don't think I'd ever get it.
Good evening. Would everybody please take a seat? I think we're going to get started. My name is Kate Kalk. I'm a member of the board of the Houston Seminar, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the first session of the Houston Seminar's course called Upon This Rock, Papacy, Parish, and Politics. Little did we know when we planned this course 6 months ago what exciting changes would take place in the Roman Catholic Church within the past couple of months, a change that hasn't happened for 600 years. The resignation of Pope Benedict XVI and the selection of our new Pope Francis open a new chapter in the history of the Catholic Church, a 2,000-year history that has shaped not only the Roman Catholic Church itself, but the history of nations and the lives of millions of people. We have the perfect person here to give us a look behind the scenes at how decisions are made at the Vatican, how its administrative arm, the Curia, operates, and how the Vatican relates to the American Church. Dr. Sean Theriault was Professor of the Year last year at the University of Texas. His main academic specialty is the U.S. Congress, but he also teaches a semester-long course on the Catholic Church. As a practicing Catholic, he has enormous respect for the Church's history and direct personal involvement in what the Church has become today. He is leading the Houston Seminar's study tour to Italy next month, where he'll be able to provide an even more detailed and intimate look at the Vatican and its surroundings. I might mention here that we have one double room left for that tour. So if anybody would like to go, by all means let me know. I am also going to give you a plug for Dr. Theriault's new book, which has just been published. It's titled The Gingrich Senators, and it's about some senators who came of political age in Newt Gingrich's legislature some years ago and absorbed his confrontational tactics and then took those tactics to the Senate, which may explain part of the reason that we have such a dysfunctional body today. Dr. Theriault holds a BA from the University of Richmond, an MS in Public Policy Analysis from the University of Rochester, and an MA and PhD in Political Science from Stanford University. Would you please welcome Dr. Sean Theriault, and don't forget about turning off your cell phones.
So thank you all for coming. As Kate said, the talk that we had envisioned me giving tonight was much different than the talk I'm going to give, because you all have become experts in how a pope is elected. Right? We've just been through it, so we know like when they take votes and what happens and how many votes they need and stuff like that. So I thought that I would take a little bit broader perspective on trying to understand the Catholic Church. And so I want to first thank Kate for that nice introduction. The Houston Seminar, I think this might be the fourth or fifth course that I'm leading, but they've always been on a different subject, right? Not on the Catholic Church. So this is the first time I'm going to talk about the Catholic Church. But as a way of introduction, I thought I would tell you a little bit more about what I study. And so I know a whole lot about this institution, the U.S. Capitol. Right, Kate just showed you the book, and it literally it just came out last week. So it was in my hands on Tuesday. And it's my third book, and they've all had to do with Congress. So the second one's called Party Polarization in Congress. I have a thing with timing, right? This book came out, and then polarization in Congress has grown. We decided to plan this talk, and the Pope resigned. So things that I know question mark, right? So the Vatican. And so I thought, so what is it about studying the Congress and the Vatican? There must be some similarities, and I came up with a few things that would help me try and gain leverage on the study of this institution through what I know about Congress. And so there are a few similarities between the Catholic Church and Congress. The first of these is that they both have really good intentions. I think if we think at the very heart of what it is that Congress does, it tries to protect us. Right? So a very good intention. And if we think of what the purpose of the Catholic Church is, of course it's salvation. Right? So
I love that.
And until we get salvation, right, we have our country to protect us. So we're in good hands, at least from the intentions of these two institutions. The second thing that they share is they both have people in funny costumes. The Senate has this tradition of wearing seersucker suits one day a year. This is supposed to be a sign of the bipartisanship. You'll see Democrats and Republicans. Although I was disheartened because just as of last year, they decided to cancel this tradition. They thought it was distracting them from their job at hand. So they're no longer seersucker suit day in the Senate. And of course, right, I pick on poor Cardinal Burke here, who's in traditional cardinal attire. So people in funny suits. The third similarity is they both have some historic heroes. Of course, we can think back to all of those great members of Congress who served. In here, I just have Henry Clay, and then Bob Dole, a more modern hero, I think, of the Senate. And then, of course, we can go back to St. Peter, right? He's a pretty heroic guy. And then someone who I look forward to showing some of you when we go to Assisi, St. Clare of Assisi. And when I say I look forward to showing you, we're actually going to see her. So she's one of these bodies that's been uncorrupted, and her body is on full display in her cathedral. So you'll have the opportunity of meeting her. So the fourth commonality is that they both, as of late, have fallen, I think, on hard times. Right, this figure is not going to be surprising to any of you when I show you that Congress only has 12% approval. As John McCain says about that 12%, it's down to the people who are either paid directly from Congress, so either work for Congress or their family of members of Congress. And then there's no one else that approves of what Congress is doing. And of course, the Catholic Church has had better days too. The priest abuse scandal certainly wasn't a high spot in the history of the Catholic Church. And then finally, fifth, I think they're both ready for a rebound. Right? I mean, there's glimmers of hope in the Capitol. Right? So the whole golf match between Boehner and Obama didn't work out so well. But now we have a group of 8 senators that seem to be making headway on immigration, and we think that there might be some glimmers of hope that we're finally going to have some real compromise. Of course, I think the Catholic Church is ready for a rebound. As I've been planning this trip to Italy, I've been exchanging emails with some folks over in Rome and folks here in the hierarchy of the church. And all of us are in agreement that the Catholic Church hasn't had 2 better weeks of publicity, or 3 better weeks of publicity now since Pope Francis has taken over. So I think that both institutions are ready for a rebound. But what we're going to talk about today, of course, is the Catholic Church. And so today we're going to do an inside look at the politics, inside look at the Vatican. And then in 2 weeks, same spot, same place, we'll do the politics of the American Catholic Church. And so today, when we take an inside look at the Vatican, I think that you can't understand the decisions that the Church makes unless if you have a little bit of respect for the history that has gone on before. So hopefully, you all know the history of the Catholic Church as well as I do, but hopefully I'm going to put some of that history into a little bit of a context so we can understand what happens today when they are making decisions. And then we'll have a little bit of psychology, and then finally at the end we'll have some politics. So that's the outline of today's talk. So first, some history. And you'll have to excuse me, I'm a professor, right? Like, there was chalk on my pants. I was teaching 3 hours ago in Austin and drove down here as fast as I could. And so I think of things in a timeline. So that's how I teach my students back at UT, so I'm going to subject you to that today. So of course, and we think now 5 BC approximately is when Jesus Christ was born. And then, of course, his death, 33 AD, 38 years later. And there are really important things that happen around this time. The first thing that happens is that after Jesus Christ dies, of course you all know the story on how Jesus dies. Judas Iscariot, right, betrays him. And Judas, of course, being one of the 12, right, so here's the traditional portrait of Judas kissing Jesus and then thereby betraying him. And this, of course, is the actor playing him in The Passion of the Christ. So he's not one of the 12. And I think he is one of the 12. And what happens at that time when he betrays Jesus is, according to tradition, he takes his 30 pieces of silver, and then we have 2 different accounts in the Bible. One of the accounts says that he hangs himself, and the other account says that he buys a potter's field, and as he's walking into the potter's field, he trips, and then his, I'm going to get this right, his bowels gushed out, according to the Bible.
Nice.
And so we have 2 different kind of stories as to as to what happens to Judas. But what they decide to do at that point, I think, is critical for why we're here today in this room and in the church just next door. And that's that they decided to replace Judas. Right? It's not obvious that they would. Right? So it indicated that this wasn't going to be a movement of just that time,